Good day and thank you for joining us. Today I will present to you our research and initial review on Melanau Sago masquerade for Serahang, Kakan, Sarawak. The purpose of this study is to introduce the traditional Melanau mask, the masquerade, and its relevant role in the existing Melanau society. Despite of playing an interesting role during Kaul, this cultural object carved from the front of Sago palm is nevertheless overlooked or unnoticed by previous Melanau cultural researchers. Thus, this research will provide a brief insight into the process of making the function and aesthetic values complementing the mask. This mask culture can be associated with the mask culture in the archipelago region as exposure to the outside world in the Melanau community. This takes into account the geographical factors of the Melanau people inhabiting the coast, the fishing activities carried out, as well as the strategic position of the old Melanau kingdoms such as Barong, Rajang, Sirih, Telian, and Igan, which located in areas close to rivers and sea. From the highlight of previous studies conducted, it was found that most studies related to Melanau masks are not done in depth. There are studies that only state the atmosphere and existence of mask culture in Serahang Kakan, a performance done by the Melanau to the Ipoh. Most past studies related to the Melanau community are more focused on bloom, ordakan, and medical processes. There are 3 field studies that have been conducted in this study. The first field study was done to see and collect some data related to Serahang Kakan and Kaul in 2018. Several informants were found and then formed a group of informants who were more focused on the study of manufacturing process, customs, and functions of Melanau Sago mask. The second field study was conducted to obtain information from Melanau cultural experts as well as those directly involved in the Serahang Kakan performance. This study is more towards a deeper understanding of the relationship between Serahang Kakan and Melanau Sago mask. And the third field study focused on activities before, during, and after Serahang Kakan ceremony in 2019. For this study, cultural experts, mask makers, and Serahang Kakan makers were interviewed. All information collected from previous study, highlights, and all series of field studies are then collected, analyzed, and compared to obtain more directed research information. The Melanau people are seen to be very fond of using sago tree in production of their cultural objects. Sago trees are abundant in these ethnic residential areas. This tree is also used as a marker for exploring new places, as known as betalun in Melanau community. Melanau Sago mask is made from cut branches. They are obtained from surplus of branches that have been cut. During the process of the straw is taken to be used as sago. The quality required to make mask is that the branches are not wet and are still freshly cut. Wet branches usually contain large quantity of water. This affects the production of the carving on branches later. This large amount of water causes this part of branch to become too soft to be carved. It is also heavy and complicates the process of taking it out of the forest. The Melanau Sago mask that uses sago branches is a unique cultural features of most cultural traditions are more inclined to use wood as a material in making masks. Usually, the production of masks using wood is made from the trunk part of the tree in contrast to Melanau Sago mask, which uses the branch parts of the basic material of manufacture. Not many cultures in the world make masks from material and branch parts like Melanau Sago mask. However, the use of plants in the makeup of Melanau Sago mask makes it difficult to store for a long time. The duration of the mask to maintain the quality of the engraving is usually not more than a week. The mask appears to shrink and bend at a time, causing the condition of the mask is not the same as the original condition. This factor is also believed to be one of the reasons why Melanau Sago mask cannot be placed at the Sarawak Museum. This mask is seen as a symbol to other worlds and also as a symbol of cleansing. Melanau Sago mask in Serahang Kakan performance during Kaul must be in the main boat carrying Serahang. This mask is also needed in every Serahang Kakan performance because it is believed that without the presence of the mask, Serahang Kakan could not be carried out properly, as this mask is a symbol of ritualism to accompany the ceremony. For comparison, the ancient artifacts of the Melanau people are in the main boat in Dalat. For medical activities, the use of Dakan. The Dakan, all disease will be stored in Dakan and washed into the water so that the disease can be returned to its proper place. No one can touch or disturb this Dakan while being swept away for fear of giving the disease to the person touching it. Engraving the mask also has a Dakan design element. Referring to the original mask, which is sack jute cloth, it can be expected that this mask serves as a symbol of cleansing and spirit. This mask activity also serves to control the condition of Serahang Kakan's performance from being disturbed by the children. Therefore, this mask was originally produced in very creepy shape. Children who like to explore will always be in various areas and will likely interfere when the ritual performed. In addition, this mask sculpture is also a symbol to other worlds to help in making the ceremony better and more organized. Nevertheless, the function of this mask has become slightly different in modern world, although still considered a carrier by the locals. This Sago mask is seen as a culture to enliven the event. The modern mask design is simpler and less daunting than original design. This is acknowledged by the mask maker Hatruji, who considers the mask design is now more independent and depends on the creativity of designer compared to original design. This has some extent changed the thinking of visitors to see mask culture as entertainment that is no longer so creepy. The character of the mask performer today is also more open and looks more friendly in celebrating this ritual activity, such as waving his hand while in a canoe and always ready to take pictures with visitors. This situation has slightly changed society's perception of this mask. Modernization is also seen as a factor leading to this situation. Visitors have begun to capture memories by taking pictures of the ceremonial atmosphere and also taking pictures with the mask performers. Usually, the mask is very big. This size is very large to cover the face of the mask performer. When compared to other Nusantara culture, such as Hudok mask, Bali mask, Mahmeri spirit mask, the size of the Melanau Sago mask is quite large. This large size is due to the use of the sago branches in the production of the mask. Most of the inside of the stalk is used, while the side of the inside of the branches are maintained. Both Melanau Sago masks for both males and females characters have the same size. It can be observed in this mask presentation that there is not a dominant difference according to gender. However, there are some design features such as mustache, mask, and tapered chin to distinguish the two. Men's masks will look more square and sharper, as well as look harder than women's masks that look softer, have curves and less dimensions like stereotypes of men's and women's visual views in daily life. The shape of the branch as a type of palm branch also affect the shape of the mast design. The straight shape on the side of the mast is maintained, and this affect the shape of the mast, which is shrinking downwards. The top of the mast is seen larger than the bottom of the face of the mast. That is the part of the chin that become smaller. In other words, the tip of the branch is used for the chin part, while the base part of one branch is used for the top of the head. The left and right sides of the mast are straight. This form is rarely found in the local Nusantara mast and focuses more on symmetry design. The Bidayuh mast is bulging, while Hudok mast pay more attention to the chin than the head. The shape of this Melanau Sago mast shows a shape that almost resembles the concept of tiki mast design by a Polynesian community that maintains a straight element on the left and right. The semi-cylindrical element also looks very similar to the tiki mast. It is found that most of the Nusantara masts are oval in shape, such as Bidayuh, Kayan, and Bali ethnic mast. This is clearly different from the features of Melanau Sago mast shape. Many carvings are made onto the front of which of the skin has been removed. The shape of the face, such as eyes, nose, and mouth, will be carved in that part. There are also sculptures who deliberately carved masks with asymmetrical shapes, such as left eye area is larger than the right eye. This condition is intended to illustrate that this mask has the characteristic of Kakan, which is described as imperfect. However, there are also masks designed that look neat and organized. The justification for doing this design is based on freedom of expression factor given to the mask sculpture in the modern day. According to sculptor Benedict, this mask is seen to have the close relationship between the value of the mask as a carrier of the spirits in the Melanau community. The function of the mask is also related to Kakan, which aims to clean up bad elements such as disease. The spirits of the deceased will be put into the Kakan, and this Kakan should not be touched after being swept away because it is believed to bring bad luck. This cultural object looks interesting because the carving produced to make this Kakan are very elaborative or meticulous. In most cultures, elaborative cultural objects will usually be preserved due to their difficult manufacture. However, in Melanau culture, these beautifully and elaboratively carved cultural objects will eventually be discarded. Modernity is seen to exist in sculptures made by sculptors known as Hatruji because hat give more freedom of work to mask maker. The connection between Kakan and mask is less taken into account. Even so, Hat still sees the mask as a cultural object that has sacred value and cannot be made at will. He also thinks that the mask should not be removed within a few days because the mask made is believed to be alive because the shape of the eye and mouth has been carved with holes. As for mask that is not pierced, that is only the face carving without punched holes in the shape of eyes and mouth, is a mask that is not alive. Usually, such masks are used for things not related to ritual. It is believed that if the ritual uses a live mask, the mask can bring problems by asking for blood if it is alive. Some mantras needed to be read and spit out some sirih to the mass to make it alive. The leaf, gegayut leaf, the leaf or a long leaf, gegayut leaves in Melanau Muka are also placed on the top of the mass to symbolize the hair. Sometimes wigs are also used in the manufacture of the mask. In this case, wig is seen as a modernity effect that replaced the deciduous leaves, which is the original material for this mask. However, deciduous leaves are still practiced because the value of the tradition has an aesthetic value that is difficult to obtain from the visual and quality of the wig. According to the belief, the mask in the main boat should be paired masked, namely men and women. In addition, these masks should always accompany Ulo Kaul along the mouth of Telian River to the shore of Kaladana. This pair of masks of both sexes is seen a symbol of complementary state in the culture of the Melanau community. All the informants interviewed agreed on the need for this masked couple to be in the main boat. They also agreed on the importance of wearing a mask in the main boat, which was the main symbol in Serahang Kakan's performance. In the main boat, there is a gift or Serahang that will be presented to Ipoh in Kaladana later. In the attack in Kaladana later. In the boat, there is a waving Ite Ieng. Ite Ieng is a duck, a black duck, which is believed to be Ipoh's pet creature that will bring bad luck if they find this black duck. From here, it can be seen that apart from bringing gift to Ipoh, Serahang also brought with them Ipoh's pets as a presentation. The masks produced in visual reference of the previous performance are creepier and more decorative compared to the more neat mask carving by the main sculpture. The mask is applied to the face or placed in the decorated boat. On the other hand, the other masks were not in the main boat carving, but were placed in another boat. Other masks are also not pierced by the eyes and mouth because they do not want to revive this mask, unlike the masks in the main boat that are meant to give soul. Every sculptor agrees that the primary purpose of Serahang Kakan mask sculpture is to intimidate children into these ritual activities so that they become more polite and do not do bad deeds. This rule has begun to change a bit in modern times when the mask is made as a cultural symbol that attracts the audience. Although nowadays mask activities are increasingly accessible to the public, mask performers still cannot introduce themselves to the public before the ritual ends. The belief can provide exclusive value to the mask performer. In the latest performance, mask performers are more likely to accompany Ulo Kaul and Serahang. Mask performers also look more friendly when waving to the audience throughout the parade session on Telian River all the way to Kaladana. The mask was originally intended to be a symbol of cleansing and is seen a major performance in Serahang Kakan. The uniqueness of the art of the mask carving have the element of horror and elevative value. In today's world, the motif of the Melanau mask carving is freer. However, traditional values such as process for mask production, the material used, and original meaning of the mask among the main symbols of the Serahang Kakan are still preserved. Thank you.